Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
So, very happy to have you here with us on the 8th edition of Industry Connect.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, and hope this is the first time you being with us on this very occasion.
Yeah.
So, what was the first sight about Sri Eshwar College of Engineering?
To be honest, when I came in, it seemed, when I looked at the campus from outside, it seemed like another engineering college. So I'm not going to be this one about it, but when I got in and when I started, of course, the people are very different. But when I got in and I started going through a lot of the walkthroughs of different centers and so on, there seems to be a lot of passion, in terms of creating an engineering college with a difference. Not from a comparison standpoint, but I saw a lot of passion earlier with SSN as well. I can see that same type of passion here in terms of doing something that's a lot different from normal engineering colleges are. So that I'm able to see.
Okay. So, what do you think is the advantage of Sri Eshwar College of Engineering?
Oh, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that because I know very little about Eshwar College of Engineering.
As per your perspectives.
Yeah, so from my standpoint, I think there are a few things that are another advantage. One, if there is a lot of times there is not sufficient management backing for doing things. That seems to be that very clearly. The second thing, usually placement officers are more focused on. Now they treat people as inventory and I need to get inventory placed. I don't see that actually in Eshwar. So I actually spoke to the placement officer and it was very evident from the discussion that he wants to do the right thing more than just get people placed. That's huge. I'm sure from a job pressure standpoint that will be there, but during the job pressure to be able to do something that is innovative, that actually adds value, is very, very difficult quality to find in people. So that was there as part of it. That I would say is definite advantage because that shows that it will keep innovating and so on. The third thing is there is not as much pressure on a company that comes in to say, hey, why don't you guys recruit in that type of stuff, right? So more than that, how can I enable, the end goal is still getting students placed, but the way that you approach doing that is very, very important as well. So in our company, we talk about it a lot in terms of the solution should work, the product should work, but the way that we develop the product is more important as well. Just 50% as important as getting the product right. We look for that in our interviews too, by the way. So it's not just getting the solution right, how clean the code is something that we look at, how well it's designed is something that we look at. So those are things that are important. So the process of actually getting there is just as important as getting there. And I think that is a huge difference that I see in Eshwar. So I think that's...
Kudos to Eshwar and you to share your views. So why don't we start? Pick one
God.
And then we'll go.
Okay, which is the easiest one? Yeah.
You can read.
What would have been your backup plan if not this domain? What do you mean by domain?
Your entrepreneurship, Agile Tech was you've chosen.
So if not, then it would have been Ajira again, but maybe in a different avatar. But it would have just been this. So the goal of establishing one of the strongest companies, tech companies, that doesn't change. Maybe the business idea, if there's a different way of doing it, so there is cash flow while we are pursuing. So the path is extremely important as well. So we would have actually done maybe taken a different path, but it still would have been Ajira Tech. That would not have gone away.
So why is it named Ajira Tech?
There are a few things that I kind of wanted to do. One is whenever you actually go, and I used to work with some of the larger service companies as well. When I used to go talk to customers and so on, almost consistent feedback was, yes, it is cost effective working in India, but I don't get really quality talent. And it's not because we didn't have the talent. It was more because of the way that we were doing things. Again, the journey was extremely important. The focus is on delivery, not necessarily on the path to delivery. And both customers as well as people are also very focused on what is the path to delivery. How do you get there? How good your product is when you actually create it. That's very critical. So that's why for me, something coming out of India was very, very critical. Creating a very, very strong tech brand coming out of India is critical. So that's one of the reasons why I named it Ajira, because it has a clear Indian connotation. It's not a language, it's a word from an Indian language. And it just basically means adapt, agile, some qualities that I wanted to have within the organization, and hence.
Okay, so next one.
Am I giving very long answers
No.
for a rapid fire round, or is it? So what do you think about today's generation? Very interesting question. There are a few things that are different. In fact, there's a really nice talk by a person named Simon Sinek. You can find it on YouTube. He talks about how do you work with millennials, because our approach and attitude is very different. Even today, when I talk to our people, their aspiration is, what's the impact of what I am doing? Right? Is it actually causing an impact, or am I just making money? Right? So these are two things that keep coming up all the time, and we spend a lot of time and effort in terms of making sure that what we do is really, really impactful. In fact, we created mechanisms where we actually sit together and talk about what projects we'll actually pick up. No service company actually does that. If you get a project, it's great. We actually talk about it and we turn away projects. A lot of projects we turn away if it's not impactful. If it's just going to make money for an enterprise, we don't do it. But if it is going to be impactful, then we definitely do it. So
you have a basic motto before taking something up.
Taking something up, absolutely, yes.
So next one.
Oh, all four you have to go through, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay, fine.
Okay, so if I screw up on two, then you have two more. As backup. So what is the best advice that you can give for today's generation? The thing that I would say is having a lot more grit, a lot of things that are available, and it's not the generation's fault, it's just that the time's fault, right? So in terms of everything is instant for the most part, right? So you get a lot of convenience. So you're used to convenience. When you're used to convenience, what happens is the ability to fight actually goes away, which was there in the earlier generation, and unfortunately it belonged to the earlier generation. So we had to fight for things, right? So it didn't come easy. Whether it was getting food on the table, that wasn't easy. I can still remember that when I was in college, $10 is all that we had, and that we had once every 6 months to actually go out and eat as friends. So each of us, the max we said, we'll just put in $10, and we had to make do within that to actually go out and eat. So that's the background that we come from. We had to fight for things. So that is a very important aspect. That's something that I pass on to my kids, that ability to fight, the ability to want to make a difference. So even when my kids want to go for their higher studies, I told them, you get a scholarship, you go. You don't get a scholarship, you don't go. So it's the same thing. It's not a question of affordability. It's a question of that desire to fight. That is the biggest thing that I would like to pass on to the next generation, if that's.
Alright. Fine, on you.
What is your everyday challenge other than business, my kids? Seriously, I think that's the biggest responsibility that we have as well. As parents, is to pass on some of the values to kids. So the amount of time that we spend, that's the biggest challenge, other than work, right? So how much time we spend and what do you pass on? So that's very critical. That's
okay. So we are done with this. Yeah. So one last to go with. So what do you think that we need to inculcate amongst us beyond of Industry Connect? Like apart from business, apart from value, there will be somewhere else that like Industry Connect is a platform regarding what basis?
So what I would say, actually Raj said it even better in the talk earlier. So I think there are three things that you do when you're earning, and this is something we talk about in office as well. One is, yes, we definitely earn for ourselves. We earn for our near and dear ones. And the third most important aspect is almost every person in our company, a percentage of what we earn goes to social responsibility, essentially. Not in terms of money, but we actually pass on time, skills, whatever it is, right, to people that are in need, right? So that's a very important aspect. If there is one thing that you guys take away, I think always the three aspects of earning is what I think we should all remember, because all of us will get jobs. We'll go to higher studies, we'll get jobs, we'll do something else, but any part of what we earn, always three things: one for us, one for near and dear ones, and one for society. That should always be a component, not just from a money standpoint, even our time standpoint. So I think that's
okay. So I think we are good to do with.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to share personally regarding anything that you feel like?
So thanks for inviting me over. I was completely blown away by all the AV things. So there was good learning for me as well in terms of what I need to present to my customers and to people as well. So that way it was great. Seriously well done. Very nice event that you guys have organized. I've gone to a lot of different college events. This probably ranks among the top, and that's seriously from the heart, not because I'm here. So,
So thank you, and hope you have a great journey ahead.
absolutely, thank
Wish
you.
you all the luck in your life.
Sure,
And,
thank you.
hope-
The same to you guys.
Hoping to have you very soon again with us.
Absolutely, and hopefully a lot of you guys can come join Ajayra at some point, so that'll be great. So,
I don't think you'll be able to run a company after that.
no. So you should actually come to our company. So it's a lot more fun. It's like college. It's not like a company. So that's how I want to run it. So seriously, it'll be like college life. Talk to me for guys. You'll know that.
Fine. Thank you. So